Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZeldaSpeedRuns, broadcasting the Skyward Sword Talk to Yerbal Tournament 2021. We've got the lower round of Group A. This is round 2 for them. It's Muzu versus Exto. Commentating for us, we have KitKat and Tato ISR. Say hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. How's it hanging?
Good. Yeah, so, Epic Boy Yerbal race. Yeah, this is, losers round 2. Basically, this is in groups. And this is Group A, but the groups are done in double elimination, so both of these players have lost a round, and they're basically going up against each other, and whoever loses this will be completely out of the tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, I think.
Very clever file name from Exto.
Yeah, he's kind of known for failing that.
Yeah, well, it's specifically in races against Jasnix.
And in the Hundo showcase.
Which was technically also against Jasnix.
Right,
Hopefully he decides to do the safer version of it. Which loses like 5 seconds. I doubt he will, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So I will also want to say, actually, I should probably notify Exto, right? Boom. Okay. So if everything goes according to plan, Muzu should have a 2.5 minute head start because she's on PAL and Exto is on English 1.0. And that is going to be significant as for what we'll say later.
Yeah. Basically, wait, Exto's running English, right?
Yeah, NTSCU 1.0.
Yeah, okay. So English 1.0 has a version-exclusive glitch called Cistern Clip, where you can basically clip out of bounds at the very start of the Ancient Cistern dungeon, which evens it out roughly with the Japanese version, since it loses a bunch of time to text. But that one trick saves like about a minute and a half, so it kind of roughly evens it out. There's like a 20-second difference between English 1.0 and Japanese. PAL does not have Cistern Clip and has very slow text. So the disadvantage here is that PAL is basically on the same level as English, but without Cistern Clip. So using a head start that I calculated between Japanese and PAL, we're gonna give Muzu a head start.
Yeah,
to make
and
things a little more fair.
Yeah, and there was like this whole thing of like, oh, should like the head start be different for like English? But we kind of just decided to treat them as like basically the same sort of version. So yeah. Basically, the Muzu's head start will both be 2 minutes and 30 seconds for both JP and NTSC 1.0.
Yep. And yeah, the reason we don't give English a head start, even though it's technically a bit slower than Japanese, is because there's a difficulty curve with English. English is significantly easier to do than Japanese for a couple reasons. First of which being, Japanese has to do some really precise brake sliding in Ancient Cistern, which if failed could lose a very large amount of time. Whereas whereas English has Cistern Clip, which is a bit of a crutch because it's not very difficult to pull off. The worst thing that can happen there is it takes a little while to clip through the ground, but it's very easy to do. This also means that when English gets to the Great Tree before Yerbal, where there's a bunch of enemies like bokoblins and keys and stuff, English will have 2 hearts, whereas Japanese will have 1 heart. So if Japanese gets hit by one thing, it dies and has to redo the whole run of the Great Tree.
Yeah, and it's like the main reason why we're treating English 1.0 and JP as the same thing is even though English is faster, it's much harder to do in a race. Give it the brake slide into Ancient Cistern and the fact you only have one heart instead of 2. So, and again, that's why the head start is the same for Muzu for both being against Japanese and English 1.0 runners. because they're treated the same as, even though one is faster, their difficulty matches the speed, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So basically, as we're seeing here is Muzu has slow text. This is not good because it's English. If you have like, we won't actually even see Japanese in this. Yeah, if you put like Japanese text and English text, you will see the difference on how slow English actually is.
Yes, it is. You could also watch my timing videos that I made like 2 of them. It's kind of painful to watch because of how slow it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of gives you a good idea of why nobody runs English text.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, also self-promoting.
Yeah, self-promoting.
Okay, so Muzu's doing. Muzu lined up for killing post. That's understandable. It's hard.
Killing post, so named. I'm coding 64-bit Link here, so I don't plagiarize. It's so named because it either kills Link or the run. So.
It does both. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could be too far to the left of the killing post and then jump off without taking any fall damage because you're not high enough. And then you could accidentally jump off too far to the right, which voids you out, and then you have to watch this whole cutscene with the knight rescuing you, and it takes forever because it's slow text, and it's not a very good time.
Yeah. So you might be wondering why we're dying at the start. This is to activate the back in time glitch, which is done by continuing and then you continue after death and you reset the console. And what this does is you allow us to play on the touchscreen, and on the touchscreen we can actually do a bunch of funky stuff. What we're going to do here is we're basically going to load the Farron pillar in early, as you'll see on Muzu's screen. And just on Exto's screen, he's just kind of starting. And we're also, one thing we didn't actually mention was that he's talking to Fledge. This is optional, but we have to have certain scene flags on certain files.
Yeah, it's optional
for it to be possible.
in a casual playthrough, but it's not optional for a speedrun since that flag it corresponds, like the game essentially sets a number in memory when you talk to Fledge that first time, because it gives you a unique text that the game doesn't want you to see again. So the game will remember that, but when you are able to load back in time in different areas on the title screen and like load information from your files, that value will correspond to a certain log being pushed down in the sealed grounds, which if you don't have that log, you're basically you can't proceed forward, because proceeding through the sealed temple and back in time crashes the game if you do it from the front entrance.
Yeah. So, Muzu just getting the sword. Again, this is just in back in time, so we can actually do the specific iteration of split magic. And Exto just dying his killing post thing.
Yes. Exto being super slow, SMH. Can't believe he's like 2 minutes behind.
Exto is a pretty fast runner, so I think that even... I mean, it's not really a deficit because of obviously the with the language, the route is actually faster. So Exo technically still has a faster route, but yeah, I think even like I do think like just on like predictions, I do think Exto could take this here because he's no offense to Muzu, but Exo is like probably a much more experienced runner and stuff. But again, this is Yerbal, anything can happen.
Yeah. As we've seen with like every other race in the past, something always happens.
Yeah, there hasn't been a Yerbal race that's been they've all had to like certain things happen to them.
Yeah.
All of them
Thankfully,
have
I've
been
never
some
had
way
anything
eventful. Yeah.
So yeah, Muzu just started her file as the Farron pillar was being loaded, which will allow it to have already been placed in the actual game without starting the whole green tunic cutscene, which is very important for loading certain layers of the game. Because before you load into certain maps, the game will check whether or not you have the tunic, and if you don't, then certain things will be different. Basically.
Yeah. So
also,
you explain.
Oh, yeah, Muzu's getting the goddess sword again here because when she got it the first time, the that wasn't actually, she didn't put that information on any of her files, which means that the game doesn't remember that you got the goddess sword, so you have to go back and get it again.
Yeah, it's like how iterations of reverse bit magic works is that you only apply scene flags to the file itself when, like, if you start the file at a very specific point, because I think as like in like early testing for theories of reverse bit magic, is that Jim found out that as soon as you start a file, everything kind of goes back to, or the game does some sort of like kind of sanity checking, where it kind of puts all the scene flags back to how it was. But if you use, what we're doing is in iterations of reverse bit magic, we're actually starting the files at a very specific point, which is after this so-called sanity checking. So we can actually put arbitrary scene flags on our files.
Yes. And then it for these first ones, it's not loading scene flags, it's loading story flags, which basically the only difference between scene flags and story flags is that scene flags, usually when you RBM scene flags, they correspond to a lot of different things and that you wouldn't expect. But for story flags, they're located in a very specific place in memory, as to where the only way to get a story flag on your file through reverse bit magic is to do that certain event, like on the title screen. So like if you want the goddess sword on your file, oh wait, no, that's not a story flag. If you want the Farron pillar on your file, you have to place the Farron pillar in back in time. And if you want the Thunderhead on your file, which is also gonna happen in this run, you have to open the Thunderhead in back in time.
Oh yeah, Thunderhead, that's a thing. I totally knew that. So yeah, and it's like this. Basically, how this works is that story flags aren't actually manipulatable in the same way that scene flags are. But you'll still see that story flag RBMs are still very useful, as the first one is like entering the Farron pillar early, and we'll also see other uses of that. So also Muzu intentionally taking 4 hearts of damage. That wasn't her being bad. That was actually intentional, because we want to do back in time later. And back in time requires us to be at low health, which is why a big part of this game is health management and being able to be on low health. One thing we haven't talked about is the fact that we're on hero mode, which means that there are no hard drops, among other things such as skipping cutscenes and better Skyward strikes. So again, that just adds to the difficulty of this run.
Mm-hmm. And the better Skyward strike thing, I think, only makes one trick in this route possible. Otherwise, it's well, apart from like faster Bokoblin fights, because you could just whack them all with one Skyward strike since it has the power of the true Master Sword. There's a certain trick that we use the extended distance of the hero mode Skyward strike to do a certain thing, but even then, we don't really know for sure if we'll have to get it, since it's actually a backup strat for something else.
Yeah. So Muzu just copying file 2 to file 3. That's because our current file 2 has useful properties we're going to take advantage of in back in time. So yeah. Cage break is coming up on Muzu's screen. Is fairly difficult to do quickly. The actual act of breaking the cage break isn't hard. Boy, yeah.
As you can see, it's a lot more finicky than it looks, because the game tries to auto-target the barrels sometimes, and then it'll like completely mess up your swing.
Yeah, it's like fair, yeah. And so yeah, Muzu just going in. Muzu basically just going to the bird tutorial, and Exto just going into the cave and going to get the Loftway. So a lot of this Exto will probably be behind, but because the route is faster, we will basically. Yeah, because that is faster, we will see Exto catch up.
Yeah.
Which is hence why the 2.5 minute advantage. And I just want to explain the 2.5 minute advantage just a little bit more. Someone in chat did definitely point out that it was 2 minutes. But the reason why we're doing it 2.5 is because that's the same you do in Japanese. And for this race purposes, we're treating English 1.0 and JP as pretty much the same time-wise, because even though English is slow, it's definitely slightly easier. And just having the kind of the what's the word, like the head start for every time it's E 1.0 versus JP is just too much of a hassle for like a few seconds difference, and plus an easier route.
It's more than a few. It's like 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Also coming up here on Muzu's screen is a 2-frame cutscene skip that you can side hop out of a cutscene. If she misses it, she loses like about 75 seconds. Because she has to run back out through the waterfall cave to do back in time.
Yeah, it's 2 frames, so we'll see.
We will see.
Nice, yeah.
Pretty difficult.
Okay. Yeah, Muzu got it, yeah.
Very good.
Carter, you actually made a timing strat for that as well, didn't you? Yeah.
I did make a timing strat for that, but it involves the save and quit option.
Yeah. Also, it also requires you to be a big brain in music, or just learn how to tap buttons to music. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially the same as using a metronome. It's just
Pretty much, yeah.
it sounds nicer than a metronome would. So now Muzu's going to do something called file duping, which is essentially she's picking her first file as her last selected file, and then without selecting any other files, she's going to save at this bird statue. And what that's going to do is copy some properties from file 3 to file 1 without...
Without like properly copying it, I guess, or like
without touching
without changing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the respawn coordinates are set to the waterfall cave, and the coordinates, the regular coordinates, are set to the being saved at a prompt. So when she starts the file here, she's going to spawn into the sky, not in the Loftwing tutorial, because this file technically hasn't saved the bird yet, since file 3, if you remember, was file 2 was copied to file 3 before saving the bird. So that allows her to fly over to the Farron pillar and get this cutscene, which allows her to dive off of her bird. And then she's going to die, warp back, save her bird again, and then dive out of the Loftwing tutorial to the Farron pillar. If all that sounds confusing, it's because it is. It's very difficult to understand. Just trust us, it's fast.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Also, Exto getting the cutscene skip, so he's going to do the Sky RBW, maybe the risky one. I don't know. This is Exto here.
We'll see how it goes.
He does risky shots and it doesn't pay off, so we'll see.
Yeah, but it doesn't pay off against Jesnix. Maybe the curse will be broken for Muzu. Or maybe it's gotten in his head. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, so... Yeah, but a lot of Skyloft is actually kind of... It's like a bit of like back in time stuff. There's also a lot of it about movement. There's like no real stupidly insane strats. So I think both these runs
biggest thing we need from
some decent movement.
Yeah, the biggest thing we need from Skyloft is Fledge's text box and the Farron pillar.
Yeah.
Those. Other than that, it's really just get to the surface as fast as possible with a specific setup. So yeah.
Okay, Exo looks like he's doing the safe one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a coward.
I mean, he might he might fail this. I've failed the safe one. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not proud of that.
How we're all rooting for him to fail Sky RBW for the meme.
Okay, no, he did it. Yeah.
Good job. Good job, Exto. You learned your lesson. This safer one, for the uninitiated, there's another loading zone, or there's a platform that you can dive off that's much closer to the loading zone of the sky, but it doesn't spawn you into the loading zone. You have to like manually turn your bird around into it, and it can sometimes be very finicky to time, like starting your file and then hitting the loading zone. Yeah. But there's also this platform that's directly in the loading zone, and you could just like start your file as your bird gets called. So
yeah. Also, Exo, do it again. Harm didn't see it.
Yeah, Harm didn't see it. You gotta do
also,
it
yeah, Exo did kill the Grey, so he's gonna have to lose time damaging down.
Yeah. He does have money though.
Yeah, he does have money.
Loaded. Let's see if he
game is hard.
Which means that every time he loads into the sky back in time, he's gonna immediately get 20 rupees loaded onto his file, which is gonna be funny to hear. Also, Muzu's entering the surface for the first time, and I bet you can't guess what we're gonna do for the first time in the surface. I bet you can't guess.
Alright, what are we doing?
We're dying and doing that.
Wow, that was such a
I
surprise.
bet you never could have guessed. Dying in a Skyward Sword run? Never before seen.
Oh yeah, and as Jazzix pointed out in the chat, if Exto goes into a tornado, he automatically wins. No. Yeah, okay, so it looks like Exo's actually kind of catching up fast, because he's just about to enter the Fire Pillar, and Muzu is doing stuff from entering the Fire Pillar.
Although, entering the Farron Pillar takes deceptively long.
That's very true, yeah.
It's like a minute between culling your bird and then like entering the pillar.
Yeah.
So definitely he's made a bunch of that time back from the head start, but it looks like he's going a lot faster than he is.
Yeah. Alright, so Muzu's gonna be very careful with her files here, because if she's not, this could be bad.
Yes.
Because with a lot of these RBMs, especially in Yerbal, you have to like really be very deliberate with your files. And yeah, please don't start the file too early. That would be bad. Please don't.
That would basically reverse bit warp her into the sky.
Yes, and I've totally never not done that before, right?
Yeah. And because her coordinates are saved in the sealed grounds, she's basically just gonna be stuck in a void loop in Skyloft. And that would not be good.
Yeah.
You'll also notice that there's a couple things missing from the sealed grounds. Like, there's typically a fence that stops you from jumping off, along with some Deku Babas, but because we entered the pillar without the tunic, the game hasn't actually loaded any of that, because it's on a layer that doesn't have any of that. And this also means that the ceiling spike in the center of the sealed grounds is just not there, which means we have to do this whole section back in time. You'll see the Fledge log there from the very beginning. Chekhov's Fledge scene flag, I guess.
Yeah, it's like seal flags, like are basically they're all like the same table, but they mean different things in different areas. Like I don't know which. Okay, I'll use 7x04 because, like, for example, 7x04 on the Farron scene flags is it's opening the Lake Floria gate, but on sealed grounds it's opening the door to Hylia's realm.
Yes.
So you can see, like, just in that example, like they overlap, which is why you might do something really weird in Back in Time, but then some other with seemingly unrelated incident happens on a file. It's because those scene flags are connected, basically.
Yes, and now you'll see Muzu is saving at this Farron entry statue, and then starting her file, and this is going to load her into Farron Woods. However, she has to save and quit here, because file 2, although it is saved in Farron, it's saved in a layer that, again with the layers, that doesn't have any Kikwis, and we need to rescue all the Kikwis in this route, because we need the slingshot, unfortunately, because otherwise you can't shoot Yerbal and can't finish the run.
Yeah.
And the reason I say unfortunately is because this quest alone loses English like 68 seconds compared to Japanese. Like, literally just the Kikwis.
But they're both on English, so it doesn't exactly matter too much.
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much. But I'm still salty.
So basically it looks like Exto is making his way through. I think he's almost caught up to Muzu, actually. Muzu's still quite a way ahead, but Exto's like, what, 1-2 minutes?
Less than that at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Probably like a little less than 40 seconds.
Yeah, Exto, please don't mess this up. Please,
Yeah.
Exto.
The reason he's turning his camera there is because if he looks towards the Lake Floria door, it'll start to open, since he saved at the Upper Academy statue, and that flag corresponds to triggering the Lake Floria door, which is good in any percent, but not in this category, because then it soft locks you and you just have to stare at the Lake Floria door while it tries to open twice in a row. And then he has to redo the back and time.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So yeah, both of these people are on the Kikwi quest. Kikwi quest has it's like a huge part with just like no back in time, so it's very heavily movement based. Who's ahead? Muzu currently, but they're both around the same point. Muzu's just trying to catch the first Kikwi, and Exto's just starting this quest. So I'd say about 45 seconds to about a minute.
Yes.
Although technically, I guess on run specifics, Exto is ahead because Muzu had a 2.5 minute start because of version differences and exclusive glitches.
Yep. Yeah, he's probably ahead. We'll see some of that time being made up in Deep Woods, as Muzu needs to push a certain log to come back to Skyview later.
Yeah.
Because there's some important coordinates we need there for a reverse bit warp.
Yeah.
Whereas with Cistern Clip, English 1.0 can just skip that log entirely.
Yeah, and because basically both of these runs are on English, but Exo's on the NTSC 1.0 version, and Muzu is on the PAL version. And NTSC 1.0 has a exclusive glitch which allows it to be a few minutes faster. Hence why Muzu had the few minutes head start at the start.
Yeah, CJ pointed out, Muzu picked the wrong text option there, which doesn't lose too much time in this specific instance. It's like maybe a second or two, because it gives you an extra text box. But if she picks the wrong text box with the Kikwi Elder Buka, she will lose upwards of 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Like, most of the time, these options don't mean anything. Slightly more painful in English, because again, more text for slow. But, yeah. Okay, so Exto just talking to Machi.
Yeah. This section is primarily based on how well you can manage your movement. It's very important because there's a lot of uneven slopes that can lose you like a second or two here and there, without noticing. But it's very important to manage your stamina and your movement and stuff, because with all the running around you have to do for this quest, you could save a good amount of time with just having decent movement.
Yeah.
Muzu going for a trick called Lopsa Roll, and